Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Hopefully you can hear and see me, and a bit of Ed Sheeran in the morning doesn't hurt everyone. So I think I've got Kurt there. Kurt, if you're we've got
Yes.
there you go. Awesome. So guys, a little bit of a different webinar compared to what we've normally run. We've normally focused on one or two kind of key topics. Bit of a change this time because Kurt's got some massive amount of knowledge and experience that he obviously has learned for a number of years and what's happening in the industry at the moment. So there's things that maybe don't fit under one probably complete topic, Kurt, but really, really important. So thought we get Kurt on to talk about kind of the state of the industry at the moment and things builders need to focus on and maybe change. So Kurt, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. You normally have a better way of explaining what you do than maybe what I explain.
Yeah, excellent. Well, firstly, thanks, Julian, to you and Marina and Buildxact for putting this webinar on. For those who don't know me, I'm a business coach. I work exclusively with builders, been doing it for 17 years. I probably speak to more builders every week than anyone else that I know. So I'm just going to share what I'm seeing out there. The guys that I talk to are proactive with their business development. So they're looking to improve their businesses. So I'm just going to share, what they're doing to get more control, more money, and freeing up more time in their business. And what we're going to cover off today specifically, guys, because we've got a pretty tight agenda, is firstly we're going to talk about how to deal with rising costs during a project. We're going to look at estimating correctly from the start, making sure your clients know that they're part of your team and exactly what that looks like. As I go through all of these things, guys, if you've got any questions, if you could please type them in the Q&A in the question box, and then myself and Julian, we're going to have a conversation as we go through these, but we'll address all your questions at the end. So please do type them in, and we will get to them. Number 4, we're going to talk about how to improve your efficiency, your profitability, and get a consistent flow of quality clients. There's big opportunities right now, guys. So I really want to, again, just share what's working for a lot of our guys. Interestingly, I Googled construction news, building industry news yesterday, because I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news for about 3 years now, and I couldn't believe what I saw. It wasn't stories about how the sky might be falling in. It was like it's already fallen in, like it's doomed, which is fascinating because I'm seeing the exact opposite. So one of the things that I've learned, a lot of people ask me, what are you seeing out there in the industry? Because I speak to so many guys each week. And what's the East Coast like versus the West Coast, metro versus rural? What I'm finding is that we create our own reality. It really is a case of we create our own reality, because there's two builders in one same area dealing with the same type, doing the same type of work, and one's in the 7-figure club, netting $1 million, and the other guy's in the world of pain. So it's really about you taking ownership and putting these things in place. So number 4 was improving your efficiency, productivity, consistent flow of quality clients. Number 5, we're going to talk about putting the right systems in place quickly and well, because I know most of you guys are really struggling with time right now. Time's always an issue. Everyone's got more to do than the hours in the day, but now more than ever. So how you can get past that situation, how to fast track your business success, getting to that 7-figure club. 7-figure club is, for those of you that don't know, is netting $1 million after wages in a 12-month period, right? Whether it's a financial year or calendar year. And we've got more 7-figure club recipients now than ever before. All right. So there's a huge opportunity for those of you that want to embrace business development. Like, there is a need to embrace it from a mindset perspective. There's a big leadership component to it. Your business will never outgrow your leadership. So we'll be talking about that as we go as well. And then finally, we're going to look at how builders, and this is a big topic, Julian and I were discussing it briefly before, how we've got guys pushing back on the banks, how to say no to the banks, okay, how to deal with them and get them to acquiesce. All right. So please do stick around for that. And if we've got time, I'll also share some of the opportunities. There are big opportunities in the current market, which, by the way, we nationally were between 15 and 20% above the previous record volume of work on right now, residential, right? Single dwelling residential. The previous record, I think 94 pre-Sydney Olympics. And we, again, 15 or 27 above that, and it's going to stay there until July next year, so until July 2023. Even if everything stops, it's still going to stay there with pre-commencements and everything that's been approved. All right, so let's get into it, right? So the first area we're going to talk about is how to deal with rising costs during a project. So obviously that's a big issue. I am seeing it's stabilizing of pricing. There are some areas. I spoke to a guy yesterday. They had 4 price increases in the last week. but generally it's starting to stabilize. And what I'm recommending is fixed price contracts, guys, with more provisional sums. All right. There's still a place for cost plus. If you absolutely need to go cost plus on more complex projects where there's a lot of unforeseens, you can do that. But you want your margin to be at a minimum of 20%, so a 25 markup. But in the cost plus contract, just go 20% margin. Okay, and I get that number from the Home Building Compensation Fund guidelines here in New South Wales, where they did a lot of research on where the margin needs to be at a minimum to reduce exposure to your client. And again, Julian was just talking about it before, how, obviously, if your margin's too low, then you're exposing yourself to risk. And there's a lot of builders out there, go Google the news. There's guys that are struggling with that and are crashing and burning. And the way that you can protect yourself and then your client is to get your margin at a certain level. The higher the margin, obviously, the better it is for you. The safer it is for you because you're creating buffers in the event of any unforeseen price hikes. But it is also, you've got to bear this in mind. It is good for your client, okay? Because a lot of you, and I'll share the margins that I'm seeing now, right? And a lot of you'll be sweating bullets trying to put forward a quote at these margins, just thinking it's going to get pushed back. But really, you need to come from that place of you protecting your client. So if they were a family member or someone that you really cared about, a close friend, you would want to have your margin, at a minimum of 20, so 25 markup, because there is a difference in markup and margin, which you won't go into now. But you're protecting them. So you can come from a place of like love and compassion when you do that. So the margins we see now, the highest in my 17 years in the industry. To give an example, renovations, 42 markup, which is a 30 margin. That's sort of standard now for anyone doing renovations, and extensions, which is probably the most staple niche or area of specialty in resi construction. But the highest I've seen is 70% markup for commercial fit outs, or office fit outs. Yesterday, I was speaking to a guy in Brisbane, and he got instructed by his estimator, a bookkeeper who works close to the estimator, to take his labor costs, his labor rate from $60 up to $85 an hour. Because, if you're using a good estimator, I know you guys do, Julian, they get to see what the hourly rates are for other builders out there. And so that's pretty significant. I mean, off the back of that, they're able to put on an office admin person for 3 days a week to free up even more time as well.
Yeah, well, I think you touched on it earlier just there about the kind of educating your client side of it. I think that's a really important part that, a lot of people maybe don't sit down and explain what the situation is in the market. And, you still see people, shopping at the lowest price because they want to get the product that they want, and prices have gone up and they want to take the lowest price possible. But yeah, I think it's just about sitting down and educating and saying, look, you can take a lower price, and but if that builder goes under, you're going to be left with a half finished home, which obviously no one wants. So I think maybe people could do maybe a little bit more education on what a low price actually means, and not just from a quality of work. Obviously, that's a given anyway. But in the current climate, when no one really knows where prices are going, I think that they're not going as crazy as they were, but they're still far from stable. So just a bit more education out there will help, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys have Buildxact's link to pricing now as well, the actual the software, right?
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of suppliers that feed directly into our software. So Bunnings is the biggest one that's just come on board. So they're on board now from New South Wales, Queensland, and Victoria. Yeah. We've got Dalson's, which are mainly obviously Victoria and New South Wales. There's some Mitre 10 stores, and there's a bunch of others across the country, depending on what market you're in, what state you're in, sorry. So yeah, if you are using us, definitely make sure you're using the integrated pricing into the system. Okay.
So guys, just want to reiterate, right? You always want to look for a process solution. And again, there's always more to do than our hours in the day. So we follow an 80-20 rule. The 20% of your systems give you 80% of your results. And in business, your results are your profit, cash flow, workflow. So from a pricing perspective, what's the process solution? So really, when it comes to pricing accurately, which we're going to get into next, you really need to slow things down. You need to take your time to shop it out, to really look at what are the, what's the pricing looking like. And one of our guys in rural Victoria just last week did some procurement. So shopped around on pricing and was able to find, 25 grand in a $2 million project, which is significant because that goes straight onto your bottom line. So to get accurate pricing and to make sure that you can deal with any rising costs and have those provisional sums in there, you've got to slow it down. And obviously now for a lot of you, depending on where you are, there's probably more inquiry than you've ever had. So client selection, being able to say no to most of the people that come at you, depending on your situation, and then picking and choosing, being ruthless with your selection, choosing the right people, and then guys, having a sales process and charging for quotes as well is really important. So for some of you, that may seem outlandish, but really that's the way it's headed now. And there's never been a better environment for you guys. The supply and demand factors heavily in your favor. So there's really a shortage of builders right now. So that puts you in a strong position to be able to dictate terms, but again, in a loving, caring way. You're not charging for quotes or using a client commencement agreement, which we'll get to later, because you're trying to be difficult. You're doing it because it really helps your clients. So the process needs to help them understand that. So really, a sales process that is education based, that helps them understand why it's important for you to slow down the costing process and to shop it out properly, to get it accurate, and how unfortunately most quotes are not accurate. People need to be made aware of the ugly truth, and then they'll be more inclined to acquiesce. So we do have a process which I don't have time to go through in painstaking detail, but it's in a book that I wrote and came out in late 2018. And everyone on this call, I'm going to give you guys a free copy of the book, a paperback copy. So anyone listening to this recording on the live call, you can just email info@builderscoach.com.au. Just put book in the title of the email, and then give us your name and best postal address. We'll shoot that out to you. And also after this webinar, we'll send out an email with a link to the book resources. There's about 40 documents and videos in the book, including the sales process that I just mentioned before, which you guys can access and start using. Okay, now from my experience, the application, using the process, just following it is often the hottest part, right? It's just a mindset thing, but I encourage you to do so, and also get in touch with myself and Julian if you have any questions about that. But I'll just check my notes if there's anything else to touch on. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next point. Anything else from your side, Julian, to add to that first point of how to deal with rising costs during the project?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, making sure you've got, from a Buildxact perspective, making sure you've added everything in there appropriately that is a PC or PS item. People can miss them. I know, obviously, there is a sort of situation happening where people are just adding everything into PC, PS currently. But yeah, educating the client, making sure you've got as up-to-date pricing as possible, because the costs are going up and you're using an out-of-date price file, you're already behind. And, if your profit margin's low, your price goes up 3-4% on the job, you've got a 12, 13, 14% margin, you're already eroding a fair chunk of that. And then any issues during the job. So just make sure, as a first point, although costs are going to rise, you want to be as accurate as possible. And, also maybe not necessarily giving a client a giant lead time to accept a contract, but make sure you're having an expiry date on that quote and repricing it accordingly.
Yeah, hence why charging for quotes is so important, because people, you're not dealing with a tire kicker, but the educating, a lot of you might be thinking, well, how am I going to spend it? I don't have enough time to get everything done now. How am I going to sit down and start educating my clients? Well, that's what the sales process does. It educates them through documentation. So for example, there's an FAQ, frequently asked questions document. It's 9 pages long, and it explains to people, what a fixed price contract is, a square meter rate, how they differ, provisional sums, PC items, all that sort of thing, which they can read, and that educates them. So there's leverage in the documentation. And if you use the process, follow the process, it does all the heavy lifting for you. So you don't need to have a 45-minute conversation educating people. Another great way to educate people is through video, right? The number one medium for communication on this planet right now is video. 1 minute of video is equivalent to 10 minutes of reading. So you can take the documentation I'll share with you in the resources section of the book, and then create videos. Just kind of 2-minute video that explains to people, your process and how what you do in getting accuracy on numbers is better than what a QS does. Okay, because you're collaborating closely with all the suppliers and the trades that you know well, and the designer or architect to get it nice and watertight. So that goes a long way. So I just want to emphasize that for those of you that were worried about, the time factor. But once you do that, it's only going to free up a lot of time.
Yeah, sorry to jump in there, mate. Matt's just asking the email address for the book. If you just add that.
Okay, sure. So
chat maybe. If you just pop
yeah,
it in.
we'll send out an email to everyone who registered. But info, so info at builderscoach.com.au. So builder with an S and then coach coach.com.au. And we'll get that across to you quick, smart. We'll cover all the costs, guys. We're not going to make you pay postage and handling. I'll send it out to you. Our mission is to raise standards in the industry. So I'm happy to share with no strings attached. Okay, so moving on to the second slide. Let's keep going. Estimating correctly, all right? So we sort of touched on it, but it's really important that your client understands what's involved in costing a job, because sadly, the public out there is completely unaware. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them are completely unaware of what's involved in costing a job accurately. So again, you want to communicate that. Now, I've just spoken about how you can do that with a well put together sales process. And I'm obviously sharing that with you guys through the book resources, and you can just take it and use it, and it works. Test it. If it doesn't, come back to me, but it does work. But marketing, there's something you can do prior to the sales process, which is your marketing. And marketing really is selling in advance. All right. So the way you guys can do that, and the advantage you have in this industry versus other industries, is that people love resi building. People love property. People love, they have aspirations to build a dream home or forever home, or if they've got that already, they want to do investment properties, they want to flip. Just think of all the reality TV shows around property. So it's hands down the number one obsession on the planet, in the world. Like, when I went to the US pre-pandemic, they had a list of the top 42 reality TV shows around property, right? So you guys are familiar with that. Your marketing, and again, video being a great medium for communication, is a great way to get information out there. Just help people understand, the prelim process. For those of you that do architectural builds, it's like 12, 18 months sometimes before they even turn any soil. So instead of not, explaining that to people, or just leaving that for them to discover themselves, you can really do them a service by helping educate them on what's involved, and the fact that you have a process and a team to help them through that preliminary process. So that will educate them, but through the process of educating them, you're going to be building a lot of trust. Okay, and that will lead to what we call a negotiated tender, which is a one builder tender process. And you guys would have all had this happen, where someone comes to you and they have decided they want to work with you. And usually it's because they were referred to you by a friend or a family member, and they know that the other person had a great experience with you. But for those of you that are already using video content, it comes through like your Instagram, your House, if you're using House, or your newsletter or your blog page. And that's what we call client banking. So I encourage you to look at that. And the key message for today, obviously, is process solution, right? An ideally best practice process solution. So my job is to share as much of that with you guys as possible. But the other big leverage point, so you can leverage through information like that frequently asked questions document that I explained earlier. And you can send that out to 100 people at the click of a button, and they could all be reading it, and that saves you hundreds of hours, right? But you can also leverage through people. So from a marketing perspective, you could use a great marketing strategist. So we have a genius network that we've accumulated over the years. These are people that have proven themselves to be very effective at what they do. And you can find a good marketing strategist that can do all that marketing stuff for you. Because some of you older guys, the Gen Xers out there, they might be thinking, well, I don't Instagram, do I want to figure it out? Or this video content, I want to get in front of a camera. You don't have to. You can get other people to do it for you. Okay. But what that does, when you've got good marketing, and even marketing now, for some of you may sound counterintuitive. Like, why the hell would you want to market when you can't even handle the volume of inquiries coming in? Okay, and that's why you need a good sales process. Ours is called the 6-step sales process. And you want to ideally be saying no to 80% of the people that come at you and cherry picking the best clients. Okay. And I'll ask you guys now, think about this. If you're watching the recording or on the live call, what percentage of your current clients, if you think about the people you're currently working with, right, the jobs you're working on now, maybe you've got 5 jobs on, 3, I know some people got 19 jobs on right now. What percentage of those are your ideal clients? Okay, so AAA grade blue chip clients. Ideally, it should be all of them. Okay, that's what you want to strive for with your marketing. Okay, now, so how do you make sure you estimate correctly from the start? Well, you've got to find out what your client's budget is early on, right? I know some people don't agree with this, but you don't want to waste your time, because you guys, I guarantee all of you have been in a situation where you've gone, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months deep into generating a quote, took a lot of your time and effort, and then you present it and the people are like, oh my God, I can't afford that. There's no way, and it's way beyond their budget, right? So rather find out their budget, rather get, at the early stage, get a ballpark figure. I know Buildxact, you can do that, right? You can get a ballpark figure, just to give them some indication. And then really important to emphasize that it is a ballpark figure, okay? Because they will hold you to it. They will hold you. So that's a very sensitive issue that you've got to be very careful. Sorry, Julian, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say a couple of options there, Kurt. So you can either build your own template out in Buildxact that gives you a ballpark figure that, you work out the key components of the build and the key costs. And, we discussed this earlier, and, that might be, a small bathroom in a, builder's range, for example, and you've roughly worked out what that costs you. Then you've got a medium or the next tier up for that, and you work out the rough price, and that gives you a really easy snapshot of being able to work out what the price is. Alternatively, we do work with a bunch of estimators that actually do offer these services and actually send them over. I think I saw, I think Hayden from Pricer Plan is on this as well. So I caught with Hayden yesterday or the day before, and they offer 3 services that they send over to Buildxact. So one's a feasibility study. I'm going to get the names wrong, but then then there's more detailed versions of the estimate that they send directly into Buildxact. So you can make sure that you're getting a fairly accurate estimating process. Yeah, there we go. He's on the chat. So we've got a bunch of people we work with. So there's different ways and different routes you can go for doing that.
Yeah, shout out to Hayden. Great to have you on the call, Hayden. And I'd highly recommend, if you're working with me, I'm going to recommend that you charge for quotes, 1, and then 2, you outsource it. So not only is it going to be saving you a whole lot of time, you don't have to do your quotes anymore. Maybe you check the numbers, but you're giving it to someone who is much, much better at quoting than you. If you're the GP, they're the cardiologist, right? So it's going to be, it's a double-edged sword. So there's huge benefit there. One of the things I heard yesterday, interestingly enough, from one of my builders was, when they presented the quote, the client wanted to know when the builder thought the costs were going to come down. All right. And the answer is they're not. Right. So if you have any clients waiting for the cost to come down, now maybe I'll just wait. I'm not going to build now because it's going to be cheaper next year. It's not. Whenever the costs, you just got to look at history, right? It's a good indication of the future. Whenever the costs ever come down on material. So it's highly unlikely, all right, that's going to happen. So you need to again communicate that. But to re-emphasize the process, again, process solution, right, for everything. The process solution for estimating correctly from the start is educating them with your marketing, pre-sales, then taking them through your well-defined sales process in the book, 6-step sales process, and then presenting them with a preliminary agreement solution. So those people that don't have design, they don't have any documentation done, they come to you early in the piece. You want to have a team ready. You want to have surveyors, engineers, architects, designers that you collaborate with, ideally the top 20% in their field, who you can then use to help create all that preliminary documentation, and also make sure that the documentation is high quality, it's accurate, and there's good turnaround time. So that's how you add value in your business, right? Making money is about value creation. The more value you add, the more money you make, right? So there's an opportunity for you to add value where you can help them through that preliminary phase and outsource it. You don't have to get involved in doing the work. You outsource it to the right people. All you do is spend time finding the right people, like the right architect, engineer, designer, and then you package it up. Your client goes to them, it gets done. That helps you create more accurate pricing as well. And then and you charge for the privilege, which the client's going to have to pay anyway. But because you've packaged it up and you found the people, it's going to save them a lot of time. But it also qualifies them quite aggressively, because no one's going to pay you for a prelim or quote if they're a tire kicker, right? So your conversion rate goes through the roof, which means you can slow things down, which means you can shop it out. You can really identify where there may be price hikes coming, provisional sum, and then get your margin up. And ideally, if your marketing's done well, you'll get more of those negotiated tenders, which is a license to put your margin up. So some of you are wondering how on earth someone can go 42 markup. It's because there's no competing quotes coming in. It's just a one builder tender process. And I can tell you, I've paid for a builder to do work on one of my properties where the margin was 40%. Okay, and I was happy with that. I don't care about the margin. These people communicated exceptionally well. It was a enjoyable experience, and I'll explain a bit about that later as well as a point of difference, actually. So don't think it's a lot of the problems with margin that builders have is just in their head. All right, it's in your head. Let me talk directly to you. Most clients, if you've got the right type of clients, don't care. Like there will be tire kickers or price shoppers, of course, but if you're dealing with your blue chip clients, they are going to be more interested in the outcome and the client experience than all about what they pay. Okay, let's keep moving here. Just conscious of time. So talking about clients really are part of your team, and that needs to be communicated to them, right? You need to make your clients aware that they are part of the team, and in order for you to deliver on your promises to them, you need them to meet you halfway on certain things like payments on time, access to site. They can't just turn up every day unannounced or whenever they like. They can't call you after hours on the weekend. You know, people think 7 o'clock on a Sunday night they can call you while you're having dinner. That's not on. You guys need to rest so you can turn up wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and fresh to work on their project. Now, in your client's defense, if you don't manage those expectations up front, if you don't explain that up front, then they're not going to know any better. All right, it's like you not getting explained the rules of the game that you're about to play, and then you play the game, and then you get blown up for some infringement. You ask, "Hey, what's that for?" And they go, "Well, it was on page 147 of the rule book," and you'll be pissed off as well. Which is why a lot of your clients are pissed off, because that maybe they haven't built before, or if they have, they can't remember all the specifics around variations and the variation process and whatever else, and then all of a sudden they get blindsided. All right, and it really pisses them off. So the best thing you can do, and again, you know, you're probably wondering, well, give us the solution, Kurt. What's the process solution? The process solution is using what we call, and this is in the book, a client commencement agreement, which is just, and this is doing a big favor to your client. It's basically a summary, a 2-page sort of breakdown or synopsis of all the things in the building contract. And by the way, if you're going to use a contract, make sure it's an association contract, MBA or HA. Don't use the any of the architects' contracts or any other contract. You don't need to create your own. Just use the ones that have been most used and tried and tested. Okay, but the client commencement agreement basically extracts the things in those contracts that you know are going to come up during the build, and you're putting them in layman's terms and explaining it to them in a way that they understand. Okay, we all have that situation where we click on these terms and conditions. Nowadays there's pages and pages and pages because the lawyers are just having a field day, and we just tick the yes and that's it. We don't read it. Who reads it? No one does, right? So obviously there's going to be things that your clients miss or don't understand. So going through it with them, and I don't mean just sending them this 2-page document, which again you can get in that resource section of the book. You literally sit down with them and go through it. And then the respect that you gain. So you educate them. Again, this is part of that client education process, but also the respect that you gain from having those uncomfortable conversations up front, because some of them are a little uncomfortable. Like, is payment on time is one of the things. They've got to pay on time so that the money comes in, so that you can pay your trades and suppliers, so you can keep the job flowing and eliminate any delays and overruns and cost blowouts, right? Once they understand that's why it's important and why you need a payment schedule that's cash flow positive, it makes perfect sense. And that they realize you're doing it because you care about them and you want to give them the best possible outcome, not for any other ulterior motive, right?
Yeah, and so, just to add to that, Kurt, I'm not sure if this is going to be something you're going to be touching on in another slide, so apologies if it is, but we often find the way people communicate with clients, it's more based around when the client wants something and the client reaches out to them. Mm-hmm. And my advice would be just to get ahead of that situation. So one of my really, really close friends, they built a house up in sort of Ringwood sort of way. And from my understanding, that the quality of the work was really good, but the communication was just shocking. She was constantly telling me, like, she couldn't get, they had rock under the ground and she couldn't get in touch with the builder. They weren't picking up the phone. It went to someone in the office and they said, "Oh, we'll call you back." And she was just constantly chasing. So what ended up happening is throughout the whole build, because that communication was, rubbish at the start, every time I spoke to her, she was just stressed out the whole time. And there's absolutely zero chance she'd ever recommend that builder again. So I think just get ahead of yourself in the communication. So, whether you use Buildxact or not, if you use us, we've got a customer portal, which you can have someone else hop in and send messages through that portal. The customer can go in and actually send you messages. So you're not having someone, on the phone to you all the time. But getting ahead of it, sending pictures in advance. So, maybe it's every Monday that you send an update so the client isn't having to reach out to you. So doing all those things proactively before the client reaches out to you will help you focus more on the project as well. And, obviously stops, because I called a guy that one of my partners referred, and he was on the roof answering the phone to me. I was like, why are you on the roof answering the phone to talk to me? So just kind of getting those processes in advance. And, the same friend that I spoke to, I don't really know what the process was here, but they ended up figuring out once the house was built that they couldn't actually fit a dining table into their living dining area. So they've now got a place with they sit at the coffee table or the kitchen bench to eat their food. But some of that stuff could maybe have been handled and solved with more communication. There's a group, life size plans, which we'll hopefully get on at some point in a little chat. Just walking through the plan. Another thing to talk about the margin. If you have that, as a part of the service that you offer, with clients maybe don't necessarily know that's available, that can help you increase your margin, make sure the client is happy with how the walkthrough is, because you see it from an architect, you see the plans, and it's very hard sometimes to figure out, okay, well, how much space do I have once a bed goes in, and PowerPoints, where's that all going to be, all that kind of stuff. So that's just something that I kind of off topic a little bit, but something that just jogged into my memory there.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, and it's not off topic because it was the next thing on my list.
Sorry, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's spot on. So you must have sensed it was coming up, because it's proactive client communication is hands down, guys, the biggest opportunity in the industry right now, for all the reasons that Julian was talking about. But you guys are probably rolling your eyes going, because everyone's heard about how bad builders are at communicating. But in your defense, like, how are you supposed to be good at communicating when you're dealing with difficult trades, you're dealing with the banks, you're dealing with, there's so many inefficiencies, and there's so much more for you guys to have to deal with now, and all the red tape and the blah, blah. Now you've got to somehow get above all of that and communicate proactively with your clients. So I want you to know, I understand this is not an easy thing to do. However, if you can put a basic process in place, like that client commencement agreement is a great, again, process solution for helping them understand what's in the contract that they're signing. That is in and of itself going to free up a whole lot of time. It's going to save you hundreds of hours, right? And I know that from test and measure. There's certain things where it's in the implication that you get the benefits. You've got to apply it to see that it actually works. Charging quotes is another one of those things. But so what is the process for you communicating effectively? So one of the best ways that I'm seeing now, and again, this is hands down the number one opportunity. Why? Well, it's marketing. When you proactively communicate during the job, what you're doing is you're marketing. So why is it marketing? Because people are going to have a completely different experience to everyone else. And everyone, people talk these days, online and offline. They go to the kids' footy on the weekends, and they're like, I was doing a reno, it's a nightmare. I know people that are building now, and that's the first thing they talk about, right? Was at a birthday dinner just 2 weeks ago, and the guy was talking about, he went down to Saturday, the guys weren't there, he's not being communicated, the builder went on holiday, now he doesn't know what's going on. So it's happening everywhere as we speak. All right. So the process solution, and I've tried this myself, so I'll tell you a story, right? I had a build that I was doing here in Sydney. It was a pool landscaping job, and it was a 3-month job, 200,000. They had to remove a lot of soil. Long story short, it took 12 months and $500,000. Okay. The guys were great. The pool builder was great. The landscaper was great. The architect, landscape architect was great, but no one was communicating. We found they had the wrong plans 3 times. There was a $60 or $70,000 variation that came in when they hit rock. The communication was so bad. It was putting an incredible amount of stress on me. I'm running a business, and I've got a family with 4 or 5 kids, right? So I can't tell you how stressful that was. Then, so after that, we we did a renovation, bathroom renovation, 2 bathrooms in the house while we're living there. And we used the company that had a client liaison, right? That was basically a person who we paid for, by the way, who happened to be female, who communicated proactively during the job. The way they positioned it was, so we'll do this reno for you. We're going to allocate you a client liaison, project manager, almost like a valet service. They're going to come in once a week to the property. They've got a budget for all the PCRs and the provisional sums, and they've got a schedule, and they communicate with the guys on site. And then they'll come back and talk to you, the client, and update you on any changes and things that are going on. We signed up on the spot, off the back of the previous nightmare. I mean, the outcome was great for the pool build, don't get me wrong, but the process, the client experience, the experience was horrible, okay? And it impacted us personally, and even like made me hard to focus on business. So when we were offered with that solution of we'll have this person proactively communicate and they'll take care of it, we were like, yes, and we had to pay, right? I think it was a percentage of the job, I can't remember, but that was off the chart, a different experience. And what I found is it also allowed the guys on site to just put head down, arse up and do their work, because they didn't have to interact with us at all. They just had to, they interacted with the client liaison person, okay? So that is the process for those of you that are, I can tell you now, in an area where you've got blue chip type clients, maybe in a more affluent area, there's people there that will happily pay. So that's a job where the margin on that job, I found out, because the builder that did the job was a client of mine, I was coaching them, the margin was 40%, all right? But I didn't care, because it was liberating to be able to not have to worry about what was going on, because everyone was taken care of, and I was always communicating what was happening next, right? So if you do that and you do it well, you'll get a lot of respect, you'll get a lot of credibility, and that will lead to more referrals, which will mean you'll have this consistent flow of quality clients, ideally negotiated tenders, where you can increase your margin, okay? So I just want to emphasize, massive opportunity there, guys. And you could literally put them in. Just a last word on the matter, right? If we're looking at costings now, the client liaison or project manager is a cost of sale, like materials. So you can make that, and this is what I challenge you guys to do, right? For those of you where this is relevant, make that available to your clients. So, hey, you know, here's the quote. We can include a client liaison who's going to be there, like a project manager, for an additional 15 grand or whatever it is, who will, and ideally get them to work closely with like an interior designer who helps with selections. Because we all know if you can get the selections done quickly and well up front with the right interior designer, then that's going to help efficiency and productivity even more, and also positively impact the client experience. So you can just position it as, you know, like when you go buy a new car and there's the top of the range. Like we can offer this valet service, top of the range, proactive communication thing, which, yeah, you pay more, but yeah, if you're busy people and that's something you're looking for, it's there. Just saying, right? And watch what happens. I bet you a lot of people go, yes, please. All right, so moving on. Efficiency, profit, and clients. Okay, so look, the bottom line with this, guys, is in order for you to get a high level of efficiency, and if you work with myself, it's about, we work to optimize efficiency and profit and the quality of your clients. You're going to have to embrace business development, which is, it's a mindset thing. Some of you may think, oh, I'll just get 1 or 2 things in place. If I can just get maybe charging for quotes, or just get the right team of subbies, I'll be okay, or supervisor. Really, there's no shortcuts. There's no getting away from needing to go through almost like a whole new apprenticeship of becoming a better business person, right? You know how to build, but you probably don't understand the business side as much. So I just want to, yeah, full disclosure, there's no quick fix, and it's almost like a lifelong journey where your business is never going to outgrow your leadership. So the mindset is leadership, and you going, okay, I understand if I want to enjoy a better lifestyle and make more money, I'm going to have to understand this business thing, right? And that's what's involved. So that's the first step. Make that decision and then go all in. And then, you know, I suppose I've got a question to help you guys understand whether you're on that path or not, right? So listen to this, guys. If you're not paying attention, listen to this. So do you have a plan, a business plan currently? Okay, it's yes or no. If you don't, that's okay. I mean, it's awareness is curative. You can go, okay, well, maybe I need one, right? If you do have a plan, is your plan aligned with your vision? All right. And then finally, are you working your plan? All right. So do you have a plan? Is it aligned with your vision, where you're headed, where you want to take the business? And then are you working that plan? And then are you doing that consistently well? All right. That's the process solution. Right? And then, so it starts with, so how do we make sure that you're getting optimum efficiency, profit from clients? Well, it starts with knowing your specialty. So what is your specialty? Is it first floor additions, renos, extensions, a certain genre of home, passive house? Decide, pick one. And then, in the beginning, if you're just starting out, you can just choose, a specialty that you're interested in, ideally something you're passionate about. That's going to help. And then just increase the percentage of that type of work until eventually that's all you do. We call that your blue chip jobs and clients. You want to pick your clients and your jobs based on the type of job, the location of the job, the client personality, because sadly you do get people that are difficult to deal with, right? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You've had one, I'm sure, in your life, right? Where they're overly controlling, or they've got some people have personality disorders or whatever it is. You've got to look for that. You've got to screen for that early on. And I guarantee you, if you think of the worst clients you've had, go back to when you first met them. Were there any red flags? I've asked this hundreds of times. It's always yes. Okay. And if you've had to compromise on your values and start working with them anyway, it's because you didn't have options, which means you've got a marketing problem. All right. So you want to have more inquiry than you need, so you can say no to the people you don't want to work with, including the banks. Okay. Which we're going to get to, including saying no to the banks. Right. So, your marketing, you can obviously, you're starting to realize from the conversation that the marketing plays a major role here, because it gives you more options and it allows you to create your own economy of supply and demand. Where right now there's huge demand for builders, but you don't want to be at the mercy of the what's happening with the external economy and the environment. You want to create your own economy with strong marketing, so that you've got 100 inquiries a week. You don't have to deal with them all. You just feed them through your sales process and pick the best one or two. Okay. So don't stop with your marketing. Keep marketing. Okay. And education-based marketing, just consistent pulse of quality photo and video content is generally enough within a select niche. You don't want to be all things to all people. Just specialize in, even if it's renos and new homes. That's it. Or architecturally designed homes. Just pick that one thing. And it is a gradual process, right? And find the right people. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can find people who already done what you want to do. So how do you get systems in place quickly and well? And obviously there's a lack of time now. Like I'm very aware of the fact that you guys have less time. The fact that you're even on this webinar says a lot, right, about your commitment to making some changes. So how do we do it? Well, I've mentioned before that you've got to make a decision to embrace business development. So that's a leadership thing. That's a mindset thing. That's step one. And then your number one leverage point is through people, through the right people. All right. If I talk to you about charging for quotes, a lot of you will be like, oh, but can I really do it? Follow the process, that 6-step sales process. Just follow it to the letter and it works. Okay. I know, because we've tested it everywhere over like more than a decade now. When I talk about outsourcing, so once you get someone to pay you money for a quote, who do you outsource to? Well, sadly, we live in a world of mediocrity. There's probably, you may have tried an estimator, it didn't work out. That cost you money because they made a mistake. You've got to seek out people who know what they're doing. And Hayden's one of those guys. Hayden is from Price Planning, is one of the guys that Buildxact is aligned with. I refer my clients to him as well, because he's figured out how to, he's figured out the quoting thing. He's going to be able to quote better than you. All right. So work with someone like that. But beyond that, and I can give you some examples of, okay, I'll give you an example. One of our guys, he's Northern New South Wales. He's got a huge amount of work on that he's secured. And to give an indication, it's 7-figure club. So he's looking at, 7-figure club, either this financial year, 23 financial year, or the following year, just based on what's in front of him and the margins and what he's secured it for. But he's sorely lacking in processes and systems. So he's currently working with 8. Okay, there's 8 specialists. So there's Hayden's a guy. Then there's a guy that is like Buildxact with their team that can help set up Buildxact quicker and set it up well. There's the marketing strategist that is going to ensure that each of these jobs is a marketing opportunity, because you can photo and video them and talk about things as you go and then post that up. So that's getting set up and outsourced. The financials, so making sure that the financial controls, the bookkeeping's been done correctly. Also, the structure, the business structure from an accounting perspective, and accounting and bookkeeping are separate things, is done well. So he's got 8 hand-picked people that we've tried and tested over the years that are all working on things while he's working on building his team. All right, so that's how you can quickly accelerate your results and get into that 7-figure club. All right, so the process solution for putting the right emphasis on the right systems in place quickly and well is to seek out the best people. Okay, there's a great book by a guy called Dan Sullivan, who's one of the best business coaches in the world over in Canada. This is a good book to get. It's called Who Not How. Get that book, get the audio book. No one reads books these days. So my book's on audio as well, by the way. Who Not How. If you take the time to seek out the right people, you can very quickly put the right systems in place well. But if you get it wrong, obviously it'll be a world of pain. What else do we have here? So we call that, like I said, our genius network, those people. And again, have your plan, work your plan. So with a business plan, I don't think I mentioned before, 12 weeks is the best timeline for a business plan. All right, that's being tested to the nth degree. 1 month's too short, 12's too much, because too much can change. 12 weeks. There's another great book that was referred to by one of my clients, Natasha, in the ACT, which is called 12-Week Year, where you have a 12-week plan and you have 4 of them in a year. And it's essentially like having 4 years in one, because everyone on the planet is stuck on a 12-month calendar. And most people get busy towards the end of the year. And then there's New Year's resolutions and all that stuff. But you can manipulate the year and the timelines by having 4 of these 90-day plans, where essentially from a time management perspective, you don't need more time. What you need is a deadline, right? Famous quote, you don't need more time, what you need is a deadline. So you can create artificial deadlines and then get a hell of a lot more done. All right, it's a 7-figure club.
Yeah, can I just jump in on the back of that? And I think we covered this off earlier on before we jumped on the chat. My role entails me going to all over the country doing events, whether that's with master builders or HIA or other partners. And the amount of times that I get to an event and a Buildxact subscriber comes up to me and sort of says, "Oh, I've been meaning to ask you. I knew you were coming, so I'll come and ask you about this. Can you show me how to do this in the software?" And my sort of outlook on that is, we give people free training. There's videos on our website. There's webinars live and on demand that they can attend. And the one-on-one training time you can book without even ever speaking to us. You can go through our chat message and book a one-on-one training time for 15 minutes or an hour. But people just don't do that. They end up, subscribing to the software and trying to figure out themselves and, wasting more and more time on it. So kind of what you were saying there about using your time wisely, because everyone obviously has a limit of, 24 hours in a day. And at the moment people are working really, really long hours, but making the right decisions to use that time to create more efficiencies in your business is going to help you. Some of our training time, if you watch the videos, you can do that in your own time, and then you can book the training time, which is more sort of in work hours. But that's going to help you, if you're using Buildxact, that's going to help you get up and running. It's going to help you make progress and efficiencies when you're spending the money to use our software, so that, next week or the following week, you're going to have more free time. Whereas the problem is at the moment is that a lot of people get, and I'm like this to some things as well in my own personal life, but we know what the steps are to do to make it more efficient, but we keep on doing it because we haven't got time to do that step. So sometimes just prioritizing getting that one thing done to help you kind of going forward. So if you are using us, make sure you get the training if you haven't done that already. That was my point.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were talking about that before. Yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, we're all guilty of it. But guys, you just got to bite the bullet, because once you get over the hump and you get these things set up and you're using it consistently well, like it's second nature, it's going to give you a huge efficiency. And that time that you get from the improved efficiency, you're going to use to put something else in place, which frees up more time and more money. And that's how guys get ahead, right? So let's talk about 7-figure club. Like I said, we've got more 7-figure club recipients than ever before. I always say to my builders when I start working with them, my job is to give you a tax problem, because if you're netting $1 million a year, you will have a major tax problem. Now, bear in mind, 90% of businesses don't make a profit at all. They earn a good wage at best. So, and the tax system in this country and the Western world is very archaic. I mean, I hear guys in America talking about how you can't even make a profit anymore. You might as well just enjoy a better lifestyle, buy a nicer property, drive nice cars, go on holidays where you're going to events, they're using pre-tax money, all that sort of thing. But the obvious way to deal with making a 7-figure net profit, which is not that difficult, by the way. Some of you probably hearing this thinking that's insane. It's not. We've got about 55 builders in that space now. The sweet spot is 6 million turnover in 12 months at a 25% gross margin, which is a 33 markup with $500,000 overheads, right? Which include a wage for yourself and your office and your insurances, but none of your site related costs, right? That's a 7-figure club right there, because 25% of 6 mil is 1.5, $500,000 overheads, you get 7 figures net profit. All right. The easy way to deal with that, as in deal with the tax problem that you will have, is one, you need a great accountant. You need someone who understands best practice, understands businesses that make money. So we've got accountants like that we can point you to. But and then have a structure. You do need a structure, and then use that profit to do non-client work. Okay, and that is the best model I've seen. So if you can find a great niche, a specialty, you've got good marketing, you're doing lots of negotiated tenders, your margins are consistently high, you've got good processes, a strong team, then you set up a development arm. So you do non-client work where buying it. I won't tell you how to invest your money, but if you buy and hold, cash flow generating assets over time, it's a great strategy. And then you can choose to, we have guys that look at other business opportunities, and then opportunities just open up, and life becomes very exciting. You can inject more purpose and meaning into your life. But I'm not going to go through the exact process, but again, you've got to embrace business development. You've got to become a good leader. You've got to decide on your niche. You've got to be good at marketing, or finding someone who's good at marketing, right? You've got to increase your margin, keep increasing your margin. You're going to use positive cash flow payment schedules. You cannot have a situation where you're financing jobs, guys. You cannot do that. You will crash and burn. You can only finance so much. Those of you that have investment properties, there's a point where you stop. You can't get more until you generate more cash flow, right? You can't borrow more money. So you cannot finance your jobs. It's going to limit your growth, right? And then start doing non-client work. So set that up. I know there's a lot of guys that I talk to that would love to do their own developments, and they've got the money to do it. They just can't get to it. They don't have the time. So you want to structure things where we've got a few guys that have set things up now where they want to get to 7-figure club, put someone in there, and then to run the client work, because it's all systemized. Find a young 32-year-old guy who's going to go out on his own, but they put him in there, and then they set up the non-client work where the other guy's getting a piece of the action, and that's the best model that I've seen. All right. I did want to share conversion rates. I said I was going to share some conversion rates of that sales process, right? When this is set up well, I'll give an example. Tim Waring, who I interviewed at our Sydney event just recently, his sales process, let's just give you an indication of what it looks like, right? When it works well and it's executed on consistently well. 200 inquiries. These are his numbers. It was over a period of time. He had 200 inquiries come in. From the 200 inquiries, they had 35 site visits. So look at how many people he said no to, right? 35 site visits. From the 35 site visits, 30 contracts were signed, okay? And then the last 20, it's been 20 contracts from 20 site visits. So very high conversion rate, right? But saying no to a lot of people. So I know for many of you hearing us say, you should market more, that's counterintuitive. Why would you want to market more when you've already got lots of inquiry? Because you need to, almost like sluicing for gold, say no to 80% so that you can find those AAA grade blue chip clients, right? And happy to share the interview with Tim, or you'll see it on our Vimeo channel. You can see him talking about more specifics around what he's done. Say no to banks. This is the big one. I know some of you probably came on this call just for this one topic right here, right? And there's always a lot of interest. So ideally, if you look at what we've been talking about so far, you want to avoid the banks, right? So find clients that don't need the banks. If that's possible. Some of you may be going, well, that's not possible. Okay, well, let's look at what you can do when dealing with the banks, right? So I've got multiple examples of people, builders, clients of ours, choosing to either not engage with the banks. So bear in mind, your contract is with your client. Your contract is not with the bank, right? So if the bank tries to contact you, you can completely ghost them. Don't even engage with them. Just speak to your client. Remember, you cannot afford to finance jobs, and if you do, and if your margin is too low, you're exposing your client to risk. So out of love and care for your client, it needs to be cash flow positive. And this has also been verified by the HIA lawyer down in Victoria. We had an event down there where we were talking about this, and I was recommending a positive cash flow payment schedule, which again, you'll see in the resource section of the book, but there's 15 payments, right? In the HIA contract in Form 1, so in the contract is Form 1, Form 2. Form 1 is like 4 payments, right? That was established in 1983. I was encouraging the guys to use the 15-stage payments, positive cash flow. One of the guys, there's a room, 50 builders. One of them said, no, it's illegal. You can't do it. So we got the lawyer to come up. He got to the front of the room and he said, look, guys, do not use Form 1. It's outdated. Okay, the building practices have changed since 1983. So you have to use Form 2, create your own, make sure it's positive cash flow. All right. Naturally, we asked him, why is it still in there? And finally, he said it's too much of a political risk for them to change it, whatever that means. Okay. But for those of you that are interested, that was the feedback. But so it's got to be cash flow positive. The banks do not understand building. They do not understand that. All right. What I've just explained to you, how that Form 1 is outdated, but it's still there for political reasons or whatever it is. They will look at that. And I've got an example here I want to share with you with a guy down in Melbourne. His name's Sam. He had the banks come to him and say, we are rejecting your payment schedule of 15 payments because in the HIA contract, it says Form 1 is 4 payments and we need it to be this way or we're not going to finance this job for your client. All right. Now, firstly, there's builders out there that won't even engage the bank. They'll just say to the client, look, we care about you. It needs to be this way, right? And they go talk to the bank. So there's one. But what Sam, they phoned him. He took the call. And Sam basically said to them, this is Sam's message to me. Hey, mate, just push back on a bank, a big bank. They refused to issue our client a loan due for our 15-stage progress payment schedule offer to share this. Stating it is below industry standard. So the bank called him and said, look, your 15-stage progress payment schedule is below industry standard. We said, that's fine, but we stand firm with our above industry payment schedule and refuse to adopt your 1980s approach of frame, lockup, and fix, sending most builders into insolvency. Okay, so with all due respect, Mr. Bank, we're going to stand firm on ours. We're not going to engage in that because it is outdated approach, blah, blah, blah. And then he said to the guy, obviously speaking to a person, and I think he did it respectfully, he said, good luck explaining that to your client. All right. The next day, okay, we received a phone call accepting our terms. They got a phone call from the bank. All right. So that's a true recent story. This is weeks ago. Right. And I get these all the time. So for a lot of you, maybe you just haven't questioned, the banks or pushing back, or you see them as a big authority. You've got to understand the banks do not care if you're trading solvent. Just think back to the Royal Commission. And every time I bring this up, people laugh at me when I'm talking one-on-one. I go, hey, the things that the banks did, if we did it, we'd be in prison. Like if you Google banks and drug cartels, look at what's happening, right? Like it's not, don't shoot the messenger. There's factual information out there about criminal activity. The governments can't shut the banks down because we don't have a financial system, right? So they get slapped on the wrist and fined or whatever, but they do stuff that's illegal. They will see you trading solvent. They'll see you crash and burn. And I haven't got time, but I can give you stories where they literally take money off people and then will say, well, we do not have a duty of care to you. We have a duty of care to our shareholders. All right. So that is how they function. You need to be mindful of that. So ideally, step one, avoid the banks. All right. And if you can't, marketing problem, do better marketing. Otherwise, do not engage with them at all. Tell your client it needs to be this way and explain to your client why. Again, education. We're doing it because we care about you. We can't trade insolvent. We can't finance the job. That's not good for us, but worse for you, Mr. Client. Okay. But if the banks do get through to you somehow, you just push back the way Sam did. Just politely show that. Just explain to them. So look, we can't. Look, the bank, and remember, the bank's already agreed to lend the client the money. So if it's a $2 billion loan, they've agreed, we will lend you the money. Now they're arguing about, is it 4 payments or 15 payments? So when they release the money. So they won't walk from that loan because you all know how much profit they make. And there's another bank, I guarantee you, that will say yes. So they'll lose the business. Okay. So 99 out of 100 times, there's been one in my entire career where the bank did walk, but that was, I think, post GFC. Right. Anything to add, Julian?
No, that was this is probably an area that I don't have too much knowledge on, so I'm not going to pretend like I do. And but yeah, I mean, I've heard this same sort of story multiple times that the banks are trying to push back, especially and force builders into situations where they're going to potentially having issues financially.
They have their agenda, right? Banks have their agenda. They're bottom line driven. They're a company. Good on them. Like, they want to make a profit, so they don't care. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story about one of my builders who I know well. He was doing a development. So he was building someone like a development type job. It was a development, like a multi-unit development for a client. So the client was the developer, he was the builder, and the client went bankrupt without him knowing. But the bank knew because they were financing the job, right? So what they did is, so he was on a roll with the job. So the payment stopped, but he just assumed, it's okay. He knows the client will pay him or whatever. He kept going, and he spent $300,000 of his own money to finish the job. And then when he finished, on handover, the bank took possession of the property. And then he found out that the bank knew that 3 or 4 months prior, his client went bankrupt. So he then said to them, he pointed to that and he said, you guys knew that he went bankrupt and he couldn't pay, and you've waited for me to finish the job. I've spent $300,000 of my own money, and now you're taking possession. And they said to him, and I believe this was in writing, they said to him, we have a duty of care to our shareholders, not to you. Without even flinching, right? He then went, this was Royal Commission time, he submitted that to the Royal Commission because he had evidence to show what happened, right? And they were like, it's not enough to get a hearing. So that did not even make a hearing at the Royal Commission. Okay, so you guys just need to know that that's how they function. They will stand next to you, watch your house burn down, and our duty of care is to our shareholders, not to you. So don't engage with them. The other thing I wanted to touch on, guys, quickly is trades. I know a lot of you are dealing with overly demanding trades like subcontractors, and how do you deal with them? Well, again, it comes back to the margin thing. You have strong margins. Pay your trades, because you've got to recognize, and this is the, you create your own reality. Now, Google the construction news yesterday just to see if what was going on. It is a whole different story to what I'm seeing. I've got more guys going to the 7-figure club now than ever before and really enjoying their business and there's passion and purpose. But there's other guys in a world of pain and walking away from it all, which, if you think about it, that's happening anyway. Like pre-pandemic, there were businesses going down. There's stats, 80% don't make it through 5 years, and then the 20 that do don't make it to the next 5. So it's a bit like, there was an article, apparently Joe Rogan was talking about some guy had a heart attack and they blamed it on climate change. Like, would that guy, did he have a heart attack because he's unhealthy? Like, climate change is a real thing, but was that the reason why he had a heart attack? Like, some of these these guys going out of business, is it because of the pandemic and supply issues, or would they have gone out of business anyway? Right, because they're not leading, and there's no real business development systems and processes. So trades want to get paid. That's all they want, right? And just imagine having to get paid by builders. There's late payments and there's a margin for delinquent accounts. Every trade would have had a situation when they were pushed out to 90 days and also not being paid at all. The builders just went, sorry, closing our doors, bang. So if you pay them consistently well, you can pay them on 30 days. They'll be happy with that. The second thing to payment is an organized builder. If you organize, you've got some process and structure, and you don't dick them around, because imagine how many times they get dicked around by builders who are unorganized and running the job, out of the back of the ute and out of their head. So that would be frustrating as hell for them. So if you can do those two things well, then you can sit them down and say, hey, we need you to put us first. We're going to look after you, but we need you to look after us. And they will, from my experience. If you've got an issue, something happens unexpectedly, you give them a call and they'll turn up. But you need to have trade agreements as well. So you can have job descriptions and KPIs for employees. You can't do that with your subbies. But what you can do is have trade packs or trade agreements where you outline exactly what is expected from them. You want detailed work orders or purchase orders so that you don't get stuffed around on, they go, oh, we did a bit of extra work because things are a bit vague in your work order. Then they want to invoice you another $1,000. I've seen them guys taking the piss doing that, right? So they have detailed work orders. Here's what you're doing. Here's what you're getting paid. Trade agreements, which include code of conduct, culture, not swearing, loud music, clean up after lunch, things like that. And then make them sign that for every single job. Okay, so there's the process solution there. And if they don't like it, well, you're going to have to, as you raise your standards, be mindful, you're going to have to flush people out. Not everyone's going to want to rise up to the level that you want to go. Anything to add, Julian, from your end in terms of trades?
No, not specifically there. I mean, with our systems, we have an ability to send a request for quote, and you can communicate through the trades, with the trades using Buildxact. But yeah, just probably echoing what you were saying there, mate.
Okay, I do want to apologize. We've gone slightly over time. I just want to touch on the opportunities that we're seeing. So just for you guys, just because I'm in the trenches, we've had 4 clients joint venture with developers. For the first time in 17 years, I've seen guys joint venturing. So literally merge their building company with a development company. 3 on the East Coast, 1 on the West Coast. And, guys leapfrogging as a result of that. So we haven't got time to go through the details, but there's builders where they've set a goal to get into the 7 Club in 3 years so that they can exit and do non-client work. And then they've had clients who they told that to. One of the guys literally said to one of his clients, I'm going to start doing developments in 3 years. And the guy was like, hey, well, I've got money. I want to do development now. I'll finance the development at 5%. So it's like a vendor finance. The client puts 100% of the money in and then gives the builder his half of the finance for the property and the build at 5%. So we've got a couple of stories like that as well. So there's an opportunity, but hands down, the biggest opportunity now is what we were talking about before with proactive communication and having a client liaison person and just offering that. So I'd encourage you to just offer that premium service and see who takes it. But that's it from me for now. Let's get into the questions. I see there's a few there, Julian.
Yeah, let's fire in. I think I was answering some of them as we were going through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to make the window bigger, and it's not, when you're trying to find that perfect part in the corner to click it.
Yeah.
Let's just cover off. So Isra initially said the 20% margin was difficult to agree, and he needs some suggestions on a cost plus model. So I'm not sure if you can give any suggestions on that, Kurt.
So sorry, what was the question?
There's 2 comments here, or 1 comment saying 20% margin was difficult to agree. So I'm assuming when you were saying 40, he was saying he's finding it difficult at 20. So yeah, I'm not sure if you can give any advice, in a summary.
Yeah, sure. So on a cost plus, it's difficult for people to agree to pay 20% on a cost plus. Okay, just if that's a question, that the 20% margin is a 25 markup. So just use the word margin in the contract, but mark up 20%. So if there's 100 grand cost, you go up 25, and that 25 grand is 20% of 125, right? So there's that. And if there's any difficulty, point to the Home Building Compensation Fund guidelines. I'm happy to send you a copy. Just email me at info@builderscoach.com.au, and it shows how the margin needs to be at 20 to reduce the risk to the client. So the government and the insurance agencies are not interested in protecting you, the builder. They're interested in protecting the end user, the client. So we've got plenty of guys that use that on cost plus contracts. Show people that this margin is here so that we can protect you. All right, because look outside. Ask them to Google construction news and ask them if there's a danger of things going wrong. Yeah, there is. So this protects them, and that's what they call credible third-party evidence. It's research-based evidence that shows that that's the best thing for them, and it eliminates that issue. The other thing is that they question the 20%, which, by the way, 20% is crap margin. It should be up at 30. Let them know that that's a gross margin. You've still got to pay your overheads. And even if it's a big job, don't go, well, it's 20% on a $5 million project. It's going to take you 2 years to build a $5 million project. So you've got to pay all your overheads from that. It's a gross margin. So it's not a good one at all, which is why I don't like cost plus, because your margin cannot be optimized.
Right. I'll unmute myself. We had some comments around estimators. So Hayden's jumped in. We have on the chat there. Angela referenced or asked about Bunnings in WA. And don't 100% quote me on it, but I think they're going live in the WA Bunnings Expo, which I believe is this month. It might be early next month or late next month. But, that's when they're going live. But the date escapes my mind. Ronald, ITM for New Zealand. Obviously, you've answered that saying you don't use ITM, Carters and Bunnings. You've asked about. So with the pricing integration that we have in the software, the systems and processes are already set up, ready to go. It's really just getting people to integrate. So, ask the questions of your account managers for any suppliers that you work with. And yeah, they can either reach out to us or agree to join up. The other thing I would say is if you can get an Excel sheet from them, you can load that into Buildxact and just get an update Excel, whatever it is, once a month, once a quarter. And then when you reload that Excel sheet into Buildxact, we will figure out any changes in pricing or new items or things getting taken away when you load that in. And if you've used those prices and say templates that you built in Buildxact for say single story, new build, double story, kitchen reno extension, whatever, we'll go and update all those prices. So say that timber line item goes up that you use, we'll update all that price. So you can be halfway through a quote, the price changes when you load it in or when you've got the integrated update, you'll be able to see that there's been a change happen. So that's kind of how the price integration system works at the moment. So Ronald, no demo of Buildxact today. Kind of wants to stick to those key topics that Kurt's just been going through, but happy to organise someone to give you a demo of the system if you're interested. And then Matt asked about the email, so we've got that. So yeah, that was info@builderscoach.com.au. Kurt, was it?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Yeah, so I messaged John when he said this, and he said, look, one day we'd like to see a system that allows him as a client to log in online, see the status of the project, including claims, variations, and CCTV and things like that. So in the customer portal, you can do a lot of that. The CCTV, I don't think we'll ever personally add in. But yeah, maybe a builder might agree to do it. So any recommendation? Yes, the quote. So Hayden's jumped in there. Yeah, so Saltview Builders, if I got that right. So I think they're a client of yours, Kurt. They said that yeah, it was a great decision to work with you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that.
Sorry, I'm just going through the thanks Hayden as well for giving us some support there, saying that we're amazing, which hopefully you all agree. And then Saltview Builders as well said that we stick to the 11 claims, always have kickback from the broker, but pushback, never had a knockback. So yeah, I think Kurt is just kind of reiterating what you're saying there, is that they'll try and force you into a situation that as soon as you knock it back, they'll just agree.
Yes, exactly, because they don't want to lose the business, because they make huge profits, right? So then it's not enough for them to walk. The payment schedule is not enough for them to walk, but that's the number one thing they tend to push back on. And then 90% of builders just acquiesce because they go, oh, it's a huge bank, I don't want to lose a job. They panic, and then they put themselves and their client in a difficult position.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what you see now in the job market with companies like hiring people and there's no labor around.
Yeah,
and you can almost name your price for it. So I think most people, if you push back on the bank, they'll agree eventually. So Silvio's asked, are these strategies in your book, Kurt?
Yes, everything we covered on today is. If there's anything I've missed, guys, I love helping people, right? You probably gathered I'm quite passionate about this stuff. I want to raise standards in the industry, so I'm happy to share as much information as you like. Just email me at info@builderscoach.com. Any specific questions or challenges you've got, happy to help. Especially the fact that you guys have turned up on this webinar demonstrates, that you're interested in learning, and I love helping people. So get in touch.
Awesome, mate. And then Joseph said, Kurt, we're using the 6 sales process. Do you spend time calling and using the audition script on all leads that come in?
Sorry, I was just reading. I've just got the chat box up as well. Was that a question for me?
So from Joseph, so he's asking you, he's saying they're using the 6 sales process.
Yeah.
And then do you spend time calling and using the audition script on all leads that come in?
Absolutely. So just bear in mind, because we didn't go through the specific 6 steps. Well, step 1 is a questionnaire. So Google form questionnaire, that comes back. When that comes back, step 2 is an audition call, which is essentially you speaking to them on the phone for 30, 40 minutes, going through that questionnaire. There is a script for the audition call, extracting more information to establish if it's worthwhile for you going out and seeing them on site or them meeting with you in your office, whichever works. So you do, if the questionnaire doesn't come back, there's no audition call. Or when the questionnaire comes back, if you see a deal breaker, so something on there like that, they're an hour and a half away, you're not going to go see them. You don't do the audition call. You just respond with there's a say no email template, which politely refers them on to someone else. Excuse me.
Got your email down there because Israel's asked for it again. Just make sure I've got it right, Kurt. info@builderscoach.com.au.
Correct. Builder with an S and then coach.com.au.
Yeah, awesome. So Blessing's asked, how do you handle a loss-making project? So it's current project, it's making a loss at the moment. How do I handle that conversation with the client?
Ooh, yeah. So I don't know if that's the situation where they're priced on, just priced it wrong or whatever, and now it's losing money. I need more specific information, but I have had a situation where prices have gone up during the build, and now it's put the builder in a situation where there's no profit or very little, and they just said to the client, "Right, here's the situation. It's not good for you that it's going to put us at risk, which puts you at risk. So, are you prepared to wear these price increases? It's not our fault. It happened. And just explain to them and appeal to them, to their humanity. And what we found is a high percentage were okay to wear it. Or whether when no, we don't like it, then the builder was offering to pay 50%. This is if it's a price hike that was unforeseen and you didn't see coming and came during the build. But if you made a mistake, if you screwed up on the pricing yourself, then you're probably going to have to wear it. There's not much you can do. Just get it done and move on and chalk it up to experience. And there's a famous saying in coaching: don't waste the pain. If you screwed up and you've lost money and it hurts, good. Use that pain to ensure that never happens again. Okay, it's the same as like a bad relationship, whatever. Make sure you learn from it, move on, and then charge for quotes. Use someone like Hayden, get the numbers right, hold the margin on delivery by using a job scheduling tool like Buildxact, and then fix it.
Yeah, and I also I think I was at a Master Builds event in New South Wales a few months ago, and some of the advice there was, if you can't do anything else, at least try and make sure that you can keep your cash flow in as positive a position as possible. So whether that means, I know you mentioned about paying your trades on time and things like that, but maybe communicating with them and sort of explaining the situation and sort of saying, look, can you push the payment terms out, or could you organise a better rate for the current project and then you can make it up on future ones or something like that. So I've heard that advice. Yeah,
100% optimize the cash. Yeah, and pay. When I say pay them on 30 days, 30-day terms, and then pay them on time with 30 days. But yes, you're cash flow positive.
Yeah.
And once we fix that, by the way, that's when life's a beautiful thing, man. And guys, the cash flow just keeps building up, and then there's profit first and other things you do as well to accumulate funds, which then becomes very exciting, man. When guys in a 7-figure club, life's very exciting.
Yeah, and just on that as well, something like lesson that I just thought of there. If you're not using us or you are using us, just make sure that you're having some way of cost tracking your project. So if it is starting to make a loss or you can see it going in that direction, you're finding out as early as possible. Whereas, most people, we find that they don't know they're making a loss until the project's already done. And at that point, there's nothing you can do at that point. So knowing early on where things are at and, price rises, all that kind of stuff as the project's happening over, how many months, up to a year, 2 years, whatever it is, then try and have some sort of system. Not saying you have to use us, obviously we make it easier with the cost tracking, but having some sort of system in place that you can keep track of that would be awesome. Question for you, Kurt, from Matt. Sorry, can you do a quick recap on the joint venture opportunity with client providing vendor finance or property development? He had this opportunity put to him a couple of days ago. He's just trying to sort his head.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's a good question, Matt. And it's come up a lot, right? So this went through in April this year. So obviously interest rates have gone up. So maybe the vendor finance interest rate may go up in line with that. But the arrangement was, so the builder said, look, I'm going to, 3 years from now, I'm going to exit. I'm going to put a young bloke in to run the client work. I'm going to start doing my own non-client work. And then the client said, I've got some money. I want to do some developments now, which I know is not uncommon. You guys would have all probably had a client who said, hey, I want to do some developments, because you've got to remember, finding a builder to do developments, if you're someone with money, is hard. So it's a huge advantage if they can find a builder like you who they can trust, who can help them take the money they've got and then make a whole lot more money. But it's also good for you as well. the sticking point is, how do you put that deal together? Because so what's the paperwork look like, and how do you know it's the best setup and whatever it is? So the guys that did it they were down in Melbourne, the Mornington Peninsula. They got the paperwork drawn up. But can I mention the accountant group's name?
Yeah.
It's a Fordham Group down in Melbourne. They're not cheap, but they did the paperwork, and we've since had other builders go to them because they've got those templates already for the 5%. So maybe it's 7 or 8% now, whatever it is. But I know that the sticking point is often having that paperwork set up, because you may have someone who's got 50 mil, the high net worth individual, 100 mil, and they want to do something, but then they like, well, how are we going to do it? They haven't got the time to set up what's the arrangement, the paperwork, and get it signed. If you can go to someone like Fordham who's already got the templates and it's been tested with other builders, you can take that, pay them for it, and then go to your client and go, okay, this has already been tried, worked well for these guys. Let's go, let's meet, sign the documents, get the paperwork out the way, and get started. So yeah, essentially they put up 100% of the money. They lend you your half of the money for 5%, probably 7% now, whatever it is. Then you do the build with your margin in there. You still want to have a minimum 20% margin, because remember that's a gross margin that you need to pay your overheads. So you can't give that away for free. So you still the builder on the job. You just happen to be the developer as well, who's got 50% in, and then the guy that's putting up the money gets an extra 7% on your half, which is 7% of 12 months, whatever it is. So hopefully that makes sense. It's just a vendor finance. They're putting up the money. You do the build, you still get your gross margin, and then you share the profit at the end. So they essentially become the bank. And the beautiful thing is, because it's a vendor finance, it's outside the banking system. So it doesn't affect your serviceability as well.
Awesome. Thanks for that, mate. Silvio's comment here, Kurt. Sorry, Kurt, can you recap on how to structure the cost plus contract and the margin / markup?
So cost plus going up. By the way, the highest I've had is the 33% markup in a cost plus contract, where they actually use markup. The term margin or markup, it's quite simply, a 25 markup is a 20 margin. So the minimum margin on a cost plus that I'd recommend you could do is a 20. So just put in 20 margin, because you have to reveal the margin in the cost plus, which is obviously why I don't like it. And where do you ever go anywhere to buy anything where yet they show you their margin, their profit margin? Nowhere. No one does that, right? Except in this industry. So just go 20 margin, that's a 25 markup. So the easy maths is, if the invoice is 100 grand and you want a 20 margin, if the cost is 100 grand, that's the invoices, then you go 25 on top. That 20, so that the client pays 125. That 25 grand profit is 20% of 125, even though it's gone up 25 from the costings. Hopefully that makes sense.
Amanda just saying thank you to you, Kurt.
Awesome. Thanks, you
guys.
guys.
I'll pop your email. So Merlin, copy of the webinar. Yeah, so all the webinars that we have will be sent out via email. If you want to get it just in a bit in advance, you can just go onto our YouTube page. It's normally up a few hours after the webinar, and it'll be up there. So if you want to hear a POM and a Safa talk again, then you've got that option. So from our end, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Here's a major company that lost money on a large project and now finding it difficult for them to pay about $200,000. Everything on mine is clean and documented. So I'm not sure there, Aaron, if you're the builder, or are you maybe like an accountant, or maybe you're still on the call, you can provide more detail. I'm not sure if you can pick that apart there, Kurt. Aaron's a builder. So yeah, I'm a major company that lost money on a large project and now I'm finding it difficult for them to pay about $200,000. So you're trying to get the payment from the client for $200,000.
Okay, so with that, obviously I don't want to tell you, you don't want to should all over yourself. Obviously, if there's ever a situation where you're not getting money in, you stop works immediately. It's all got to be cash flow positive. So you cannot finance the job, take the deposit, and the progress payments should cash flow the job, right? That's coming from the association lawyer. But in this situation, the last thing you want to do is get involved in a legal thing. There's lawyers out there, I freaking hate them. them.
Well, you're just breaking up a tiny bit there, Kurt. Give that 10, 15 seconds for him to come back.
Love for you guys for all the thing that goes on. Okay.
Yeah, Kurt, do you want to just go over that bit again? That last 20 seconds?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. So that's so it's key that you, again, I don't want to, I don't know how much you missed, you don't want to shrivel over yourself, but cash flow positive, stop works immediately. If money payments stop, you got to stop works. It should be depositing and then progress payments, cash flow in the job. But in the situation, in the unlikely event where you've done work and you 200K, you got 200K owing, don't get involved in a legal battle. Lawyers are going to love that. So avoid that at all costs. Shortest distance between where you are now and getting the money, or whatever portion of the money you can realistically get back. The truth will set you free, right? So there's two people I can recommend to you. There's Anthony Igra from Contractors Debt Recovery. He'd be the first guy I'd go to. He understands collecting money and contractors, right? So he deals money with sub. He's trying to get money from builders, but he does to help builders as well. He's not a lawyer, but he understands the law. He will look at your situation and whatever, if he says to you, you're not going to get your money, you're not going to get your money. And the truth will set you free. It'll hurt like hell. But he may say to you, look, you'll get 50%, 70%. And then he'll say, here's what you need to do. Or he may go, yeah, you get all your money, no problem. Give me $200. I'll write a letter. You'll get your money tomorrow. And I've seen him do that. The other guy would be Damon Murdoch. He's the one lawyer, like I freaking hate lawyers. I openly say it. Not all of them. Damon's one that I don't. He's one of the good guys. But most of them, it's in their best interest for you to get caught up in a lengthy legal battle, right? Because that's their business. They get paid if you and someone else is going at each other. So it's an unfortunate situation, but you want to get to the bottom. You want to get to the truth as quickly as possible, because this is going to take up headspace and emotion that you don't need from a leadership perspective. So go to Anthony or Damon or both and just say, what's the truth of the situation? Email me direct and I'll send you their details. All right. If you like.
Awesome. Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, my dog's decided that he's had enough of listening to me. It's playtime, so if you can see me doing that below. So Kerry's asked, what was the accountant's name? I think that was the one in reference to the joint venture.
Sorry, what was the question?
What was the accountant's name?
The accountant Fordham Group, Fordham, like Ford, like the vehicle, HAM Group. They're in Melbourne. They're in one of the Rialto Tower.
Awesome. Really cool little bar on the Rialto Tower, by the way. Can we use Builders Coach documents without any copyright? So I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. I actually had them in my notes. Forgot to mention it. Thanks for bringing it up. There is no copyright. Swipe and deploy, guys. Use it. No problem. You have my full authority.
So Hayden just commented, I thought Hayden had a meeting, he was running off, but make sure you use a stop work notice before stopping work on site. Giving you a bit of advice there.
Yep.
Silvio's asked, Kurt, can you provide the name and contact number for Anthony and for Damien as well, or Damon, sorry?
Absolutely. Silvio, if you could just email me, info@builderscoach.com.au, I'll shoot their details across to you. No problem.
Awesome. That's it, guys. Actually, one more in the Q&A. How do you price the client liaison officer in regards to different size and spec homes? So in the contract, I'm guessing you have some sort of fee in there, Kurt. Like, how would you recommend they actually put it in the contract?
Where's that exact question? That's
in the Q&A box.
Oh, okay. Let me just get it. How do you price the client liaison officer in regards to the different size and spec? So it's done on time. So as you should with your supervisors, project managers, carpenters, it's an hourly rate, weekly allocation. So for example, if it's a 16-week job, so it's a renovation, 16 weeks, and you allocate time. So the liaison officer, they're probably $150 an hour, and maybe it's 5 hours a week. Okay. So 150 times 5 times 16, and it's costed in. And all your labor should be costed in at an hourly rate weekly allocation, by the way. But again, go to people like Hayden. He understands this. I'll talk to Hayden. We compare notes. But that's how you do it. So it's a cost of sale. It's not an overhead, even though they may be on a fixed wage. It's another whole conversation, but it's not an overhead. It's a cost of sale like your materials. So the client pays for it.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. I think that's it, guys. So I don't think there's any other questions that we've got there. Obviously, a few people saying thanks for the information on the webinar, which is awesome. Glad you guys got something out of it. So maybe we'll wrap up there, Kurt, unless you have anything else to add.
No, that's it. I was going to say thank you again to you, Julian, Buildxact, Marina, and all the guys that turned up, and even the people that are watching the recording. Good on you. And please get in touch with us if you've got any questions, any further questions.
Yeah, brilliant. Same for me, Kurt. Thanks for all your knowledge and coming on, and thanks to everyone that joined. Obviously, people that watch the recording, we're noticing there's a lot more people that come onto the recording now, as well as joining onto the webinar. So thanks, and glad to keep on getting people on. And I think this little one, which is the ugliest dog you'll see today, is also happy that we're finishing up. She's been at me the last 10 minutes. I can't close the door because then she sits and scratches at the door the whole time. So I have to let her in. Just hope she be quiet.
We just got a French bulldog, so it's similar, but it's got the ears.
Yeah, she's a Jack Russell and pug.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. Talk to you soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Cheers, Kurt.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.